With that down, Chris, what is our first main topic today?
So first we're hearing from Kevin W. Crutchfield. According to THR, Sony doesn't believe that it needs Marvel anymore. A Sony source told THR that, quote, Tom Rothman is thinking, okay, we've learned everything we need to from Kevin's playbook. We did Venom on our own, and we did Spider-Verse. If Venom hadn't proved to be so successful at the box office, Sony probably wouldn't have felt so emboldened. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse also went a long ways towards Sony's rehabilitation of its image. What? They cannot be serious. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, look, obviously, there's a lot of different points of view on the whole Sony Disney thing. I am well established in this. I am a huge Disney fan. I love a lot of the stuff that Disney does, but that doesn't mean I don't smell shit when shit's been taken. And this is, to me, this is unquestionably 1,000% Disney's fault. Everything about this situation, and I love Disney. They do a ton of things right. But this is 1,000% their fault. That is my particular opinion on this. But moving beyond that, Kevin raises an interesting question. Is Sony justified in thinking, if this is indeed what they think, that they don't, quote unquote, need Marvel? The simple, obvious answer to that is, yeah, they would be justified in that. The bottom line is Sony does not need Marvel with their Spider-Man character. They just don't. All evidence points to the fact that they don't. But I'll go one step further than that. I don't believe Marvel needs Spider-Man. Marvel is, now, yes, Sony benefited greatly from getting, their partnership with the MCU. And the MCU benefited greatly, as the Hollywood Reporter and Variety have both pointed out. The MCU benefited greatly. Having Spider-Man come and show up in Civil War infused a new injection of life into the franchise that took them to another level. Sony benefited greatly. Marvel benefited greatly. But are we at a point that we say that Marvel needs Sony and their Spider-Man there, or that Sony needs the MCU? And unless you're going to cover your eyes with pure fanboyism, the answer to that question is no. They honestly don't need each other. Now, let me be very clear here. There's a distinction to be made between would it be beneficial for them to work together and do they need each other to work? Well, let's start with the question of, does Marvel need Sony and need Spider-Man? All you have to do is look at the box office and look at, the popularity of this franchise and all that kind of stuff. On top of the 5,000 characters they already have, Disney is also about to get the entire influx of the X-Men catalog, which is another 5,000 characters all coming in. They have 10 projects coming up in the next 2 years in theaters and on Disney+. None of them involving Spider-Man. So to suggest that Marvel needs Spider-Man would suggest that all these next projects are doomed to fail if he's not there. Marvel does not need to have Spider-Man. But it would be beneficial and in their best interest to have him. On the Sony end of things, Sony has made multiple Spider-Man films without Marvel before their deal ever came about. Not a single one. I know I repeat this a lot, but it's so relevant, you gotta drill this in. Not a single Spider-Man live action film that Sony ever made without Marvel ever made less than $700 million. Think about that. There's a number of MCU movies that have made less than $700 million, but no Sony made Spider-Man films without Marvel ever made less than $700 million. Now, I personally contend that I believe that the best Spider-Man movies have been Sony made. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movie, period, end of sentence. That's open to subjective opinion, of course, but from my eyes, Marvel never made a better one, and Sony themselves never made a better one. Sony's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movie ever made. And I think the second best Spider-Man movie ever made is Spider-Man 2, which I still think is a top 10 comic book movie of all time. Now, Homecoming and Far From Home are better than a number of other of the Sony Spider-Man movies, for sure, absolutely. But they have made fantastic Spider-Man movies without Marvel. They also made a couple of bad ones, but they made a number of fantastic Spider-Man movies without Marvel. They've all been financially successful. Again, the lowest box office one in their roster made over $700 million. They just won an Academy Award for one of their Spider-Man films without Marvel. So I'm sorry. Every bit of tangible context that we have all points to the fact that Sony doesn't need Marvel. But would it be beneficial to Sony to have their partnership with Marvel? F yes. Of course it would be beneficial. Like, we have been living in an era here, Chris, for the last number of years where Sony, Marvel, and all of us as fans have been living, enjoying the juicy fruits of the partnership between Sony and Marvel, having these Spider-Man movies made that have all been high quality, and having Spider in the MCU, which is added to the MCU. Everybody's made money. Fans have been happy. It is the better outcome. But I think if we're going to be objective and look at all the factual context that we have in front of us, you can't make the argument, I don't believe, that either Marvel needs to have Sony and Spider-Man, nor that Sony needs to have Marvel. You know, Sony is Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 1, which some people try to say is one of the bad ones. I don't get that. I think The Amazing Spider-Man 1 was actually quite good. I don't think it's the best Spider-Man movie, but I think it's solid. It's got like over 75% critic rating. It's got over 75% audience rating. It made them over $700 million. It made them like well over $700 million. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, okay, yeah, there's that. But even that made over $700 million. You can't make a rational argument that Sony needs Marvel, nor that Marvel needs Spider-Man. But I also think you'd have to have your head buried in the sand not to recognize that there are big benefits for everybody to have them. So I'm going to say I disagree with Kevin, because he seems to think Sony's crazy for thinking that they don't need Marvel. But they're absolutely right. They don't need Marvel. But they sure could use them.
Yeah.
And it sure is beneficial. Anyway, you're hearing about all this. What's your take on it, Chris?
I mean, you're coming in here with your facts and your figures. And dang it, I just want them to get along and do more movies.
Yeah.
I want them to have a symbiotic relationship.
Well done. Well said.
That's all I want. And, you know, that initial financial pitch, that agreement, is incredibly parasitic. That's not fun. That doesn't really help Sony out in the end if Disney's taking all this money, despite any funding they're giving, because that is a huge ask. That 50% ask was insane. And like you and Rob have been arguing about arguing for the past week, is that, you know, Sony does have the prestige. Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse did incredibly well. And it showed that you can do a Spider-Man movie without the Spider-Man that most mainstream audiences know. So they can do stuff with their own IP stuff. The issue right now, too, though, is now that they're going to lose some of the juicy bits that Marvel and Disney has. Yeah. What kind of movies are we going to get now? What are they going to be allowed to do? And same thing, honestly, for Marvel. You know, what are they going to do now after that cliffhanger, after that next phase of what's supposed to be happening with the MCU? So that's really what I'm more focused on. I don't think we live in a world where we're not getting another Spider-Man movie and we're not going to have Tom Holland in another film. I definitely think that we're going to have stuff and everyone should just kind of take a breath and just whoosah, because Tom Holland's here to stay. He's going to make more movies. Don't you worry. Right now, it's just a bunch of financials that we accidentally, I feel, got let in on. I don't think any of us were supposed to know about any of this stuff. And I'm still hoping that they do that big crotch yell thing you were talking about yesterday.
The DX crotch chop. Yep.
And they all just, you know, come together and kumbaya and let us know that the Peter Parker we know and love is still here to stay.
Yeah, and look, I go ad nauseum into this in the companion video that I failed to post last night, but it'll be posted shortly after the show's done here. But, you know, a lot of people, they still don't get this thing. It's like, 50% isn't unreasonable. It's absolutely, if you're the owner of the IP, that's insane. But it goes beyond that. It's not just 50% of the box office in the Spider-Man movies. Because on top of all that, Disney wants a co-financing agreement, which guess what? That gives away some of Sony's ownership rights if they do that. If they let Disney pay for some of the movies, that gives Disney some controlling interest in the movies, and that is something Sony cannot allow to happen. But the other thing everybody conveniently forgets about is not only is Disney asking for 50%, they're also asking to maintain their 100% merchandising rights, which, by the way, is worth an ass load of a fortune. A huge amount of money. So Disney wants 50% of the Spider-Man movies. They want to keep 100% of the merchandising, and they want to keep 100% of all the box office money that all the other movies they put Spider-Man in. Sony doesn't get $1 of that. F you. That's completely extortion. That is completely unreasonable. Oh yeah, we want to get some of the ownership rights back by being a co-financer and acquiring some of Sony's rights. We want 50% of the money, and we want 100% of the merchandising. What? And we don't want to give Sony a single dollar of the movies we put their Spider-Man character in. That sounds fair. No, it doesn't. It's so ridiculous. But anyway, I go more into that into the companion video. Keep your eyes open for that. Anyway, guys, getting back to the core question, though, of does Marvel need Spider-Man? Does Sony need Marvel? I suggest while it would be incredibly beneficial for both, neither of them actually need each other per se. How do you see it? Change my mind. Jump into the comment section below and give me your point of view and perspective on that. All right.